Hello, all, and welcome back to the Below the Rim podcast. Very average dudes giving some ordinary NBA takes and some friendship along the way. How are we all doing today?
Fantastic. Did you guys watch that Duke game last night with Cooper Flag in Kentucky? And they lost in the it was a great game, but he had two turnovers at the end. Did anyone see this game?
Michael, give us the 10-second rundown.
I only saw the last 5 minutes, and I know Cooper Flag, being 17 years old, had 26 points in pretty much his first big game, 11 rebounds, but he had they were down one, and he had two key opportunities to win the game, turnovers two times. But he's 17 years old. I like what I saw.
Do you
Room to improve.
were the I saw that they lost. Were the turnovers him just like forcing the aggression too much, or were they silly errors? What was
It
it?
was give him the ball and let him go one on one, and he went two one on one. It was I got to play hero ball. I'm
Yeah,
17. I want to be the best player on the court, and he was
yeah.
for most of the game, but it was inexperience.
What I
So
like about him is that he's like a top-notch player who just also has that skill to be like giving a sustained high-level effort, which you don't see very often. So I'm excited to see what damage he does this year, and then going into playing with the Bulls next year.
Do you
Yeah,
want to
no,
know what
I'm,
else? Do you want to know what else you don't see very often? An ass like Yabusele's on the television. My goodness, the man takes up space like I've never seen on NBA court before. It's
He
it's
could get it.
impressive.
wow,
Those screens
Uh,
cannot feel good.
yeah,
I don't want any part of that. Don't want any part of it.
that's got to be up there with the Sky
1.5
Disco.
times Lowry. How give me a comparison?
Oh,
It's like
yeah.
close to 2x Lowry. Like he
Oh,
makes Lowry
but
look like a non-ass all-star. He makes him look like an
but
everyday dude out there.
I
man,
think our
and
first investigative reporting project will be sending me to Philadelphia to really test this out.
I feel like
I feel like you have to look at it pound for pound though. Like pound for pound, Kyle Lowry can probably box with Yabusele.
No, no,
fair
no, because
points.
I disagree. There's a different shape to it. It's something only the eye could see. You'd have to
it's
take a look.
there's
Passes the eye test.
the depth.
Yeah,
It's the depth of it that
yeah.
really just
Yeah, yeah,
it's not just wide. It's long too, right? There's
Do,
like a
do,
a real impact going on.
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
is
He's an
there any
absolute runaway for Tush of the year, like an
I
absolute
Yeah.
runaway.
would not
Alex
want
is
to be
such an eye
surprised.
test Michael Wilbon for Tushes. You got to see it to believe
Kid
it, baby.
kid knows his
That's
tushes. He knows what he's looking for.
That's right.
yeah.
I love that. I'm glad we got
Well,
there.
yeah, listen, now that we've gotten the important stuff out of the way, do a quick rundown of what we're going to go through during the show here today. Three blocks of fun conversation. First segment, we're going to do a quick little game of buying it when, or never buying it. Going to throw out five observations from early in the season and let our educated prognosticators understand their take on it.
To look
Then
up
we're
that
gonna,
word.
yeah, I'm making stuff up as we go. It's a favorite of mine. From there, we're gonna let Alex and Brian rant a little basketball. Kind of hand in the dirt football guy takes, but about the basketball court. And then we're gonna transform the game of basketball. We're gonna let the panel of fellas sell the commissioner on some changes, small, medium, and quite large that we should make to the NBA, and we'll go ahead and pick a winner of today's little sell the commish action. So with that, let's jump right into it. The first buy it when or never buying it topic. Ant, SGA, and Tatum are better served with the improved number of 3-point field goals that they're taking per game. They're more impact players, and their teams will be better off in the long haul with the significant increase in uptick in 3-pointers. Ian, what are you doing with it?
I'll believe it when I see it in the playoffs. So I did a little digging of the Celtics, Timberwolves, and Thunder, first at the team level. So this year they're definitely up in 3-pointers attempted, right? Celtics last year during the regular season were at 42.5 per game. This year they're at 50.8. Timberwolves are up 9 threes a game. Thunder are up about 5 threes a game. So proof of concept there. they're taking more threes. But efficiency has kind of been mixed. The Celtics' efficiency is substantially down, only making 36%. Timberwolves' efficiency is way up, which we'll get to in a second. And then the Thunder is like pretty stagnant. They're down a little bit. But in the playoffs last year, the Celtics, Timberwolves, and Thunder all stayed around the same 3-pointers per game attempted, but their efficiency all went substantially down. So like the Celtics went down from 39% to 36%, Timberwolves from 39% to 36%, Thunder down massively from 39% to 33%. So in the playoffs, I think it's common understanding that teams are playing a lot harder, especially on defense. They're taking away the shots, stuff like that. So I went into these 3 players specifically after that. So Tatum last year during the regular season was taking 8.2 threes a game. This year he's up to 11.4. The efficiency is about the same. It's down a little bit, but it's about the same. Anthony Edwards, way up. So last year he was taking 6.7. This year 11.6. His efficiency is up by 10% also. I don't think he's a 45% from 3 shooter, but that's pretty impressive through the first start of the season. And then SGA, his attempts per game are up 2, but his efficiency is down substantially. He's only shooting 29.5% from 3. So the buy it when in the playoffs, when it works in the playoffs, comes in with Tatum last year. He took less threes per game than he did in the regular season, and his efficiency went from 37.6% down to 28.3% in the playoffs. So he took less threes, and he made an abysmal number of threes. So now he's taking 11.4 per game. His efficiency is fine right now, but is that going to be sustainable into the playoffs? I think that's a huge question mark. For Anthony Edwards, it's the opposite effect. So in the playoffs, he started taking more threes last year. He was just draining them, shot 40% from 3. He's brought that into this year, and I think we're really seeing like a transformation of Anthony Edwards' play style and the way he impacts the NBA game. And so that's really exciting in my opinion. SGA is kind of hard to say. Like his efficiency is way down. He doesn't really rely on the 3-pointer as much as Anthony Edwards and Jason Tatum do, despite showing some of that increase in volume. So for me, it's really between Tatum and Ant is kind of like the case study here. And Tatum, the reason he is able to be so successful is because he's able to change his game. Like he, in the playoffs, is able to rely on different shots, able to get his teammates better shots. Anthony Edwards, he's just raining threes. I mean, it's really impressive. But again, 3-pointers are highly variable. And so I think that like a team level strategy in which you rely on the 3-pointer, but if it's not there, you have to be able to adjust and like have other tools in the bag to really succeed. So I'll buy that this is a good thing for them when it translates to the playoffs. Tatum hasn't shown that he can do that. Anthony Edwards can, and I think will continue to succeed in that sense. But yeah, I think it's fun for the regular season, but that's where I'm at for the playoffs.
I think I might need to take a shower. Like that was
good Lord.
His dissertation on the topic comes out next Thursday.
That's why you get your PhD, fellas.
Professor's going to profess.
Yeah, I can't just half do it.
That was a thesis. I love it.
Sheesh.
Brian, Mike, anything to add?
Yeah. First of all, I went at it from a definitely less intellectual level. I didn't research all the statistics, so I love that you did that. I buying it, and I hate it. To be clear, I absolutely hate it. Just too many threes. It makes me very mad. That's a different topic we'll probably get to later. But I think that these 3 players, the more they shoot threes, it's more about keeping the defense on their toes. You have to, as a defense, you have to go farther out. And so then you open up the middle of the floor, you open up they have to go farther away from the basket. So you guard the 3, but then you get all of your other guys more involved going towards the basket or leaving my favorite place in the floor open, the mid-range. So you have to be able to shoot from 3 different levels. And score from 3 different levels, and the defense needs to be able to guard that. If you leave guys wide open from the 3, and it clogs the middle, it makes everybody less space to work with. So I view it more of I think they're all going to shoot pretty well, and I think Ian, to your point, is amazing at threes, like way better than he used to be. I'm shocked by that. But he can also score at all 3 levels, making him so dangerous. It opens up the floor. So I'm buying it because it makes everybody better and it keeps the defense really on their toes. That's kind of where I went from it, less analytical, more from a basketball defense, the rest of the team open up the floor. That's kind of where I went at it. So I'm buying it.
Yeah, I feel like those are all great points. I don't have a ton more to add. I feel like the one thing I'll say is obviously Ant is shooting at an unsustainable rate. I also think Shea is shooting unsustainably low percentage. Like him shooting 29% from three isn't going to happen. So I think if you're any 3-point shooter who can hit like mid to high 30s, it's a combination of just expected value, like that's just a good shot, but also what Michael was saying, like if you just think about yourself playing basketball and you're guarding someone who is just waiting to throw up a three and is a real threat, is kind of the point that Alex brought up last week as well. It's like I, as a defender, have to close really hard, which makes it easier for you to drive around me, puts a lot more stress on the rest of the defense. And not only does that make it harder in that possession, that's more effort. You have to put in more effort on the defensive end. That's more brain power. You have to, you're always trying to looking for your man. You can't lose him for a second. So I think if you can shoot it decently well, which I think all these guys have shown to do, Shea's the only one who's really lacking. And I think what he's done historically is he's been a pretty average to good 3-point shooter. And I think all these guys are young, ascending. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't become a good 3-point shooter, or Shea wouldn't become a good 3-point shooter. Especially with his free throw percentage being so high, there's a really high correlation between the free throw percentage and the 3-point percentage. So yeah, I mean I'm buying it. I mean, I feel like those are all good points in the playoffs. My guess though is that all shots go way down as far as field goal percentage. So I think saying he shot a lower percentage in the playoffs doesn't necessarily mean that he shouldn't be taking it, because I think all shots, the expected value or the field goal percentage, 3-point percentage of all shots in the playoffs probably go down. So I'm buying it.
Sounds like we got a little bit of a consensus. I do want to transition to another playoff related topic here, but I do think there's a consensus in terms of we think it's going to make the regular season easier stylistically on all these players, but a little bit of a wait and see on what that means in terms of play and execution in the playoffs.
Okay, I gotta say one more thing.
No, cut him off.
So
No, I'm just kidding.
just to put in perspective the difference between Tatum and SGA in terms of like volume here, because like I agree that you're talking about like not being able to sustain the percentages in pretty much for all three players, but SGA is like a third of his points are coming from threes, and Tatum it's over 50%. So like Tatum is really relying on the 3-point for scoring. SGA is not really. So all right, I'm done.
So I'm going to try a different transition in terms of, exaggerated starts. 3 teams in the NBA off to kind of faster than expected out of the gate starts. The Cavs are still undefeated. The Warriors have only dropped 2 games, and the Suns have only dropped 2 games. I want to double click a little bit on the Suns, acknowledging that Kevin Durant is hurt. But Alex, do we think the Phoenix Suns are true NBA contenders? And if not, can KD be the best player on a contending team?
No, I'm selling that. Pretty much because of Kevin Durant's health. I think he's a good enough basketball player to still be the number 1 on a championship team, but I think Mike was talking about it last week. The playoffs are a grind. Like if you're going to win the championship, you're talking 20 to 30 games, and it's way more physical. I just don't quite trust him to get through a full playoff run. And we're also only 6 months removed from them being swept in the first round by the Timberwolves. And their offseason moves were, which I like, adding Tyus Jones and Coach Bud. I like both those moves, but I don't think it moves the needle enough to make them the best team in the West. Having said that, I do want to talk about Coach Bud for a second. I love the way he looks. He looks incredible.
Does he?
Phoenix has been good.
Yeah. He looks like $1 million. I feel like he
the weather
is like a like a method actor. Like he dives into wherever he's the culture in which he's coaching. Like in Milwaukee, he looked pretty rough. Like he was really into the like the
Do I
cheese
take Google a
curds, the
picture of him right
beer,
now?
the brats. He was looking rough. Yeah, like our multimedia team will have photos of this, but I feel like he looked pretty rough in Milwaukee, and then he left, took a year off. Like he left his double chin in Milwaukee, joined Phoenix, got a pair of veneers. He looks slim. He's got like a nice golden hue to him from the Phoenix Suns. So I don't think they're going to win the championship, but I'm buying Bud, selling the rest of the team.
Mike, I think you got a little bit more belief than Alex, right?
I do, but I also the golden hue. I really like that, Alex. I actually noticed that, and I didn't, and I kind of forgot about it. And then when you brought it up, I'm like, yes. So that was key. I'm buying it when, because to Alex's point about, I'm actually more of a believer in Tyus Jones. Not necessarily. Well, one, he was always like stated as the best backup point guard in the league. That's kind of what he was known for. Now he actually has. He's leading a team where he's got so many guys that can score. You know, Devin Booker, obviously Kevin Durant, Beal. On paper, this team should be able to win a championship, right? And they haven't been able to. They couldn't put it together. Alex, your point of KD's health, that's a problem. But I do think that's why I'm buying it when, because I think Tyus brings them all together, and if he can really command the floor to say, you score at this time, you score at this time, KD take over when at this point of the game. I like their bench. I like, as much as a lot of people don't like Grayson Allen, I think he's a good player. They're huge. Their team, like physically, they're just a big team. I know Nurkic may be a little soft, but in terms of physical size, they're pretty big. So if they can put it together, I would like to see it translate from being amazing on paper to winning a championship. So that's why prove it to me, but I'm more of a believer than Alex.
I mean, I feel like the question is, are they title contenders, and can Kevin Durant be the best player on a championship team? I feel like those are both easy yeses for me. Like when Kevin Durant's humming, he can still be a top 5 player. They're first in the West right now. Like I understand it would take some health, but like they're absolutely contenders, and Kevin Durant could absolutely be the best player in a championship team. Like I haven't seen enough to prove it otherwise. So I feel pretty good about that.
I think my issue with it comes down to the fact that they're paying Bradley Beal like he is a peer of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and that creates some really awkward roster construction considerations where some of that additional backup center depth, backup wing depth is really sunk into Bradley Beal. And I think they're better with him off the court, right? Like, I think if you look at all their best 3 and 4 man lineups, most of them are Booker, Durant, Tyus Jones, Royce O'Neal. And then Grayson Allen is involved in some of them. Nurkic is involved in some of them. And then to be talked about more, Ryan Dunn is involved with some of them. So I think like the move for Beal was very much Ishbia, like new owner syndrome. Like I want all the pieces now. And I think that actually just lands them from a depth. And I think to the point, Alex, you made in terms of the grind of the playoffs, right? I don't think they have the bodies to continually contend with the depth and top end talent of teams in the West, especially the Suns, the Thunder and the Mavs. I think that creates a second tier that they simply don't have the gunpowder to stay with. So for me, I think it's a Beal conversation more than a Durant conversation.
Well, I guess I agree. The Beal fit is definitely duplicative. His skill set is pretty identical to Durant and Booker. I buy that, but I still like if you look at their 8-man rotation. When you got Tyus Jones, Beal, Nurkic, Booker, Durant, which is obviously a good starting 5. You got Plumlee, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal. I feel like that's a pretty good 8. Like that's a pretty solid 8. I'm not saying they will win the championship. I mean, I just think they're championship.
You heard it here
contenders.
first. Phoenix Suns NBA champion. No, no. I think it's why it's a fun debate, right? I think there's a very KD's a hard one, right? I think there's he was a toe away from taking a team over the Bucks to the NBA championship in Brooklyn. But he's always going to catch flack for riding the coattails of Curry to his 2 NBA championships. And I think his totality of NBA lore and perspective 20, 30 years from now kind of could be swayed based on what he does with the Suns over the next 2 to 3 years. And is he able to kind of be the best player on a team that at least makes a championship run?
Also, before we move on, I want to touch on Booker really quickly because watching him in the Olympics as a role player, which is like the craziest thing to think about, he excelled. I think that if he takes that mindset on this team to just be, I don't need to be the man, I need to be the best basketball player and the best teammate, I think he elevates every single player on that team. And I always thought he was great, but after watching him in the Olympics, I'm like, this guy, he's just a winner. As much as he is a great basketball player, he's a winner. And that's why I'm buying it when. I had to add
Yeah.
that.
I think it's
He also dated a Kardashian, so
man's lived a good life.
that's for sure. That's for sure.
So one of the players that we didn't touch much on that team is Ryan Dunn, one of the rookies in the class this year that has been kind of not so quietly considered one of the worst rookie classes ever. I'll start with you, Ian. Does Ryan Dunn or any other rookie make meaningful contributions this year in the playoffs? Do we see a rookie really stepping into the limelight and making an impact?
Really good transition.
I think so. I think so.
Don't say the Washington Wizards. Don't
No, I'm not. Not yet. Not yet. In year 2 of the podcast, we'll get.
I didn't even notice the shirt. I didn't even notice that.
So I think it's important to qualify what we're talking about as an impact. So in the last 2 seasons, the rookies who, in my opinion, made the biggest impact were last year Derek Lively with the Mavs, and the year before Christian Brown with the Nuggets. Both teams made the finals.
How many minutes were they playing? Do you know how many minutes they were playing?
Not a ton. I mean, probably like 6-man minutes, 7th-man minutes. So again, more high-quality rookies play more minutes, but in like the earlier rounds is what I've typically seen over the last few years. Like Jaime Jaquez Jr. comes to mind last year. Like he played a ton for the Heat in the playoffs, but they got kicked in the first round, if I remember correctly. So I'm thinking of it as somebody who's going to play in later rounds and like have impactful minutes off the bench probably. I think it'll happen. I mean, we're not going to shoot for the stars here. It's not the best draft, even at the top. So a couple names I wrote down of guys who I could see just having like a really quality like 20 to 24 minutes in the playoffs. Zach Edey, Dalton Connect, Tristan Da Silva, Ryan Dunn, AJ Mitchell. Interestingly, other than Ryan Dunn, all those guys were seniors in college. I think actually Mitchell might have been a junior, but they're all like senior or like upperclassmen in college. And I think that a lot of teams are looking to fill their depth instead of like with veterans who are going to eat more of their salary cap with these rookies who are going to be able to sustain success deeper into the season. So I think that one of those guys will play some deep minutes in the playoffs. I'm not saying that they're going to win the finals for their team or anything. I definitely don't think that. But I think they'll matter. I think they'll make a difference.
Yeah, one other name to add, just because of his performance tonight, Jared McCain did go off for 30 plus.
There's no one on that team.
Yeah, obviously their 3 best players, 4 best players really are not currently playing, so that is obviously part of the issue. But a guy that can clearly get buckets. But I'm more probably in the no camp, Brian. I know you feel similarly. What are your thoughts in terms of kind of the draft of this year's rookie class?
Yeah, I also think it's important to like define what meaningful minutes in the playoffs means, but I almost feel like it's a good piggyback off of the conversation we were having last week about playoffs and rotations and who's playing what minutes. Like, and that's why I asked the question, like Derek Lively, Christian Brown. How do you pronounce his last name? Is it Braun or Brown?
I think it's Brown.
Yeah, okay, I've heard that, and I was like, but his name isn't spelled that way.
He should respell it for sure.
That'll be a different episode. But I just don't think you get anyone, like you're saying, past the first round. I think, like, honestly, I think the two the two rookies on the Grizzlies obviously have Edie and then the other one whose name is escaping me, who's been playing major minutes. I think that rotation is
Yeah,
just thin.
Mitchell.
Yeah. So I think those two guys are your best shot. But like, even Edie, like, I feel like you're playing matchups in the playoffs. Rotations get shorter. Like, he could easily be playing like 15 minutes a game. So I mean, they have Aldama. They have obviously Jaren Jackson Jr. I could see one of those two guys sneaking into like mid to low 20s, but like you said, just given the class, given I think the norm is answering no to this question, and I just don't see things can change, players can develop. I think the point about the seniors is a good one. I just think if I was throwing money on it, I think it's a good bet to say no.
I also
Yeah.
I do think it'll be an interesting kind of look back because I do think that the class holistically has exceeded my personal expectation based on pundits and talking heads, kind of in terms of the negativity. Just watching Ricochet play, like, he looks like he's going to be an NBA player for a long time, right? He can go get buckets. He's long, he's lengthy, he's still young, but he looks good. Castle looks like he's got a lot of raw upside to his game. Dalton Connect's going to be knocking down threes for a while. I maybe the top end talent isn't there, right, in terms of generational, but I think I was expecting, us to look back at like the 2014 draft where Anthony Bennett was the first overall pick and look at it in a similar way. And I don't think we're going to have that same kind of negativity as we progress forward.
I also cheated on my research a little bit. I didn't include Chet as a rookie last year. Like, he was kind of in a different situation. Like, he was obviously the most impactful rookie.
Oh, for sure.
That injury sucks, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm so sad about that injury.
Yeah, that is. Yeah,
He was playing so well, and he's so impactful. Interesting just about rookies in general. I feel like everyone always tries to overhype rookies because, pick first, the draft is always just a big deal. Fun fact, 45 NBA rookies have made the All-Star game, but only 2 have done so since 2000, Yao Ming and Blake Griffin. So, and then I heard a stat that I can't remember specifically, but like second years, there's not that many that make it. Like fourth year guys are where they really start to make all-star games. And then after that, it really is guys who've been in the league for a while. So I feel like impact, again, we got to define impactful minutes. But I feel like people always overhype rookies. You got to give these guys time. You really do. So
that could be a perfect segue into Cade Cunningham. I don't know if we're going there, but
we got one more before we get there.
Okay.
And I think the next
The
2 points
segues have
are
been incredible today.
the next 2 points are probably where I make a complete fool of myself, and I'm going in feeling completely okay with that. Because the next take is the Indiana Pacers of this year are the Charlotte Hornets. And what I want to kind of summarize with that point is I don't necessarily think we're saying that the Hornets are going to make the Eastern Conference Finals, right? I think that was an anomaly, but I do think if we talk about a team that's going to go from lottery and like edge of play-in to potentially being the 5, 6, or 7 seed in the East, my candidate for that team this year is the Hornets. And I'm buying this for pretty much LaMelo Ball. He has looked incredible to start the year. He's 29, 5 and 6. He is like, his movement on the court looks like nobody else's. He's near impossible to defend because he shoots off 1 foot with like both feet from 3, right? It is the jankiest looking kind of comp to Tyrese Haliburton start to their year last year, where there was nothing that looked like it, felt like it, an office that ran like it. Really like huge improvement in coaching in Charles Lee. They actually look like a professional basketball team. The effort and defensive rotation is much better. And they're doing this all without a healthy Mark Williams or Nick Richards, as well as not having Miles Bridges for most of the year. Indifferent of how we feel about Miles Bridges, the human who's a scumbag, Miles Bridges, the basketball player, adds a lot of value to them as a team. And then the Eastern Conference. Like, we do have to talk about the Eastern Conference. As of yesterday, there was 2 teams that were above 500. Everybody else was below 500. I acknowledge the Knicks are probably going to figure it out. And I acknowledge that the Magic are probably in a different tier at this point, right? They're probably just from, even with the Paulo injury, I think they're competitive defensively enough, night in, night out, that they're going to stay afloat. I'm comfortable making an argument about every single one of the other teams that why the Hornets could finish above them. And I think that just that recipe, the unique style of play, LaMelo making the next step, Brandon Miller coming with him for that journey, plus an improved coach and rotation, give me the Hornets in the 6th seed. I know that, I might stand alone in this, but how do we feel about it, Ian?
Well, in the show notes, you put it twice that I'm not buying it, and I think that's appropriate. I think you make a compelling case based on LaMelo, but on any given night, he's going to turn to dust, literally. I mean, if he's playing and he's on the court, he's great. But talking about injuries isn't very fun. So I think that the team is just extremely incomplete. I think that they have some high-end talent, like you're saying. I'm a believer in LaMelo. I'm a believer in Brandon Miller, believer in Mark Williams. But overall, the team is just it's a bunch of donkeys out there. It just really is. And I put zero thought into this. I will say...
You don't need to because the answer is no.
Exactly. But I will say that I think there's two better nominees for the Pacers of this year in the East. I was going to say Orlando, but Orlando actually finished with the same record as the Pacers last year, so I'll go with a team that was lower, and I think it's Atlanta. So I really like Atlanta. I've always been a Trae Young guy. I know some people on here disagree with me. Jalen Johnson has continued to take the next step. And in the Pacers' tradition of last year, it's kind of like a one move away situation. They got Siakam. His numbers, his raw numbers kind of took a hit, but he fits so well on that team. If you watch them, he's a perfect fit there. Really helped them get up to the next level. They came into form around the playoffs. I think Atlanta can do the same thing, maybe adding a Jeremy Grant from Portland or even a Brandon Ingram if the Pelicans really continue to fall. So adding a top 60 NBA player to be on the wing, let Jalen Johnson play the 4 full time. I think that team could really make some damage in the East. Like you said, Jacob, it's pretty weak. It's wide open. And so I would pick Atlanta there. I think Charlotte's more than one move away, but I think maybe in a year or two that would feel a lot safer.
Yeah, that Atlanta team, I think I like that take. And I'm not a Trae Young guy. I love watching Trae Young play, but the roster construction around him really makes a lot of sense at this point. When you put big athletic guys who know how to defend, like a Dyson Daniels, you mentioned him earlier, Jalen Johnson, even a Capella Okongwu combination at center. You have rim protectors, you have long dudes who play hard. So,
Tell us more about the long dudes who play hard, Brian.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
That was a backup name for this podcast.
Yeah, but so yeah, long story short, yeah, we all need to do that more. So
yeah, my final point on that is if Trae Young's still on the team after the trade deadline, that's just not going to happen. The best game that they played all year was last night, and of course Trae Young was not on the court. Dyson Daniels had 20 and I think it was 7 assists. Jalen Johnson was a man amongst boys, and they just took it to the Celtics. Yes, I know that the Celtics didn't have their full kind of strength roster out there, but to beat Boston in a game that's supposed to matter more in the Emirates NBA Cup in Boston on a lime green court, the only variable that wasn't there was Trae Young, right? And if they can get off Trae and get something back, yeah, I think I would probably jump my Charlotte as the Pacers of the East, but as long as Trae's on that team, I just can't buy it.
that is also a very interesting point. I didn't realize that, but I'm looking at it now, and that is a really interesting 1 game sample. But that's fair. It's a fair point.
We're not scientists. Well, I guess one of us is, but I'm all about the 1 game sample. You give me that
we have a
really
doctor.
small
We have a
sample
doctor in the house.
to make my point. All right,
I think. Wait.
the
Yeah,
last.
go ahead.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
go ahead, Alex. Or do you want to?
I
Should we
was
move on to the last?
I got 2 seconds. I was just gonna say, circling back to your Charlotte Pacers point, part of its style of play, I feel like the Hornets and Pacers play the exact same style. Zero defense. They both have a run and gun point guard in LaMelo and Haliburton, and they're looking to score 140 and give up 150. That's all I have. Let's keep it moving.
I mean, listen, 145. Let's keep it under control. Speaking of keeping it under control, let's go way out of control. Last point. Cade Cunningham is making the leap, and he will end the season as a top 20 NBA player. Michael, where are you at?
So I don't want to sound too harsh because I think he's a great player. I really like him on my team as a number 2, maybe a number 3. If he's a number 3, we're a great team. I'm never buying it only because there's so many other guys I'd rather have. When I think of a top 20 player, that's a guy I want to build a team around. And again, nothing against Cade Cunningham, but like there's 20 other guys that for sure that I would rather have and build a team around. And again, I think his defense, he does everything on the court. He's a coach's dream as a basketball player. I think he plays hard, plays offense, defense, shoots. The effort's always there. It's more just about other guys I'd rather have on the team. Though I don't know, how is his durability? Has he played? I don't know if his has any injuries.
Yeah, after his rookie year when he got shut down, he's been rather durable. He was played almost. I think he's 60 plus games last year. He's played every game so far this year. But I want to talk about those 20 guys quickly because this is something that I'm buying. So, in no particular order. Jokic, Luka, Shea, Giannis, Tatum, Curry, AD, Durant, LeBron, Embiid, right? Top 10. Not going to argue any of those there, except Embiid might be dead. Hopefully for all basketball fans, he comes back.
Jalen Brunson,
Booker, Jalen Brunson, Jalen Brown, Donovan Mitchell, Wemby, Paulo. We're at 17, right? I'm not going to make an argument against any of those 17. Cade this year is averaging 23, 7, and 8. He's had 3 consecutive triple-doubles leading into the game last night, and then followed it up with 26, 8, and 9. Last time I checked, they were going to beat the Bucks again tonight. Again, ball-dominant distributor, rebounding, driving a team. Pistons are getting better this year, right? I don't know why, if his progression continues and he ends the year at a 25, 8, and 9 and is running the show on offense and making everybody else around him better, I could make an argument of taking him over Jimmy Butler, Domantas Sabonis, Paul George, and then kind of the next list, right? Hallie, Maxey, Bam, Zion, Ja, Kyrie, Dame, Laurie, Cat.
What about your boy LaMelo?
LaMelo,
Come on.
J-Dub, Derek, Drew, right? I think we hear top 20, but I think he's far closer to being in that 17 to 24 range than he is being in that 40 to 60 range.
I can't disagree with you there. I think the problem for me is that he's been on the Pistons and they've been horrible. And again, that's not his fault. I personally haven't been as exposed to him as I should be. Watching too much Sesame Street with my daughter, so I can't watch the Pistons.
No, see,
So
that's not why. It's because Detroit sucks and
It's
you don't
also-
want to watch
Well,
it. So
I think there also is a Monty Williams conversation that it was like actual basketball ineptitude that had gone on for 2 years. Like he was playing Killian Hayes, who's no longer in the league, over Jaden Ivey, like regularly to close games, right? Like there was like true malpractice happening from a coaching perspective that I think it really stunted the growth of that entirety of that organization. That I do think, well, I don't think JB Bickerstaff is going to be thought of as like a transformative coach, right? But I do think having like an adult in the room is really going to make a difference. And I think, yes, 10 game samples early, but I think if you extrapolate that over the year, he was coming out of college, first overall pick. He's 6'8", he shoots threes, and he can distribute. He's exactly who you want in today's NBA.
Jay, how much team success would you need to get him in the top 20 with those numbers you gave? Like
Yeah.
23, 8, and 8?
I think it's a fair point. I think they probably have to make the play-in game. They would have to be much better. I don't think they have to make the playoffs, but if they got to the 10 seed in the East, hop a couple of those teams, and he was the driving force, I think you had made a previous case for players like Zion and a similar type of impact in the past.
This game's coming down to the wire. Couple updates. Milwaukee up by 3, 36 seconds left, so Detroit looking like they might lose. Wemby also went for 50 tonight.
Wow.
It's pretty nasty.
What was Cade's line in that game, Brian?
So, another update. We're tied. So this game might be going to overtime. Cade's line right now is 28, 6, 11, 2, and 2. That's pretty nasty.
Oh, man.
That's pretty
Jacob,
filthy.
I'm going to switch from never buying it to buying it.
Also, I will say, though, one caveat. He's shooting 11 for 28 from the field.
Ooh.
Not great.
A lot of shots.
It's a lot of
Can we
shots.
also not forget the Bulls just beat the Knicks, and although Cat had 46. So I was excited about. Again, still can't watch them.
I was about to say, I forgot Chicago had a basketball team.
Yeah,
so my apologies.
Who are the Bulls? Who are the Bulls?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, hey, thanks everybody for playing along at home. I hope everybody enjoyed the edition of Buying It When, or Never Buying It, also known as Selling It. Thank you, Alex, for using proper English in terms of that element. Want to open up the floor for a couple of rants from our contributors here. So we'll have Alex and Brian get up on their soapbox and teach us a little bit about basketball. So, Al, you wanna kick us off?
Sure. I'm going to talk a little bit about Tyrese Haliburton, and I'm going to focus on some areas, some opportunities of improvement that I see in his game. He's 24 years old, an all-star Olympic gold medalist, led his team to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. He's extremely good at basketball and is probably one of the best facilitators in the NBA. But if you're looking for tips from a volunteer middle school basketball assistant coach, here we go.
I am.
The first thing I see in Halliburton's game that I would like to see him improve upon is he's extremely good in space and is very comfortable in space, but he seems to avoid contact rather than using contact to his advantage. So it's very clear that on fast breaks and like secondary breaks, he's super comfortable in space, but I'd like to see him when he gains an advantage on his defender or in the pick and roll, the big guy who switches on him, he kind of seems like he's running at 100 miles per hour, get out of the paint type of situation, rather than if you think of like Jalen Brunson, shout out Stevenson High School, SGA, Luka does this, but I don't like comparing anyone to Luka because he's too good. And then Austin Reeves is actually another example. Guys who they're not crazy athletic, but they leverage contact to kind of reestablish their angle to the basket, rather than when you get a beat on a guy trying to increase the space between you and the defender, which is counterintuitive. But when you're trying to increase that space, a lot of times you're losing your angle to the rim, where if you think about, like, Jalen Brunson's a great example. He gets a half step on a guy.
So well.
Yeah, he'll start leaning a shoulder into his defender to continue his angle towards the basket. And I actually looked up a statistic.
Whoa!
And
what's going on? What's that mean?
Pause. Everyone pause.
I was going to say, what's going on?
Daddy did a little homework. So Haliburton last season, or actually his entire career, his free throw attempts per game is always in like the low threes to mid threes, versus his counterparts that we would like to compare him to and want him to be equal to. Guys like Shea, Dame, Brunson, De'Aaron Fox, Maxey. Those guys are all 5.5 and above. SGA is high. I mean, he gets to the line a ton. He's 8.7 per game. So not only are those points that Haliburton's leaving on the table, but it also is kind of a good indicator of his lack of aggression when he gets into the paint. So that's point number one is I'd like him to just be more physical in terms of initiating contact on the drive. Second point is when he gets into the paint, I want him to be more comfortable operating within the paint, spending more time there. And what I mean by that is like,
Build a home.
yeah, build a home in the paint. It always feels like he's breaking down his defender and then making quick 1 foot decisions on whether to like throw up a floater or spray it out to a shooter, which is great. But I'm always thinking of guys, back to Brunson, huge fan, the 2 foot finish or the 2 foot stop. So like coming to a pro hop and like having a little bit of patience. You're looking for passes. You're looking for like baby fadeaways. Just being a little bit more under control, and spending more time in the paint helps break down a defense and create opportunities for shot. Um, Also, deceleration. I don't think I really ever see Halliburton work on like a Euro step or kind of what Luka does, where he'll just be coming up at a layup full speed and just like slam on the brakes. Um, I think that stuff really has a big impact on how a shot blocker, how they're able to time up your drive to the hoop. And then the last one, his backup, TJ McConnell, actually does an amazing job of this. The Nash dribble, where you're driving baseline and you don't necessarily have to make a decision while you're under the basket. You can kind of keep probing and sort of doing laps around the paint, looking for passes or looking for kind of baby jump shots. It really has a huge impact. Every defender is comfortable with their back to the basket, right? You're facing the offense, your butt's to the basket. When you're on the baseline doing those Nash dribbles, probing around, and the defense has to flip where they're facing the basket, they're facing a guy under the basket, everything gets a little bit confusing and cutting becomes wide open. So, back when Nash was on the Suns, he was getting tons and tons of assists on that type of action.
Sounds like he just needs to relax a little bit. Maybe he could use a pro.
Alex, I first of all, I couldn't agree more on all those points, but one of my favorite points you made was being more patient in the lane. We talk about it when we play, like instead of being a point guard, like around, the 3 point line and mid range, be a point guard in the paint. Have patience. Get guys up in the air, do some shot fakes, and then kick it out for a three, and he's wide open. And also, I haven't thought about that when you talked about driving under the basket. People think they have to stop. And TJ McConnell, great point. He keeps going. I love that. So I couldn't agree more.
Michael, do you ever play the floor is lava with Billy yet, or is she still too young for that game?
No, she just discovered that she likes gymnastics. So
Yeah,
she just,
that's
yeah.
Tyrese Haliburton looks like the lane is lava for him. You're like he is on fire every minute that he touches into it. And I think the part of it that's so interesting, and Alex, to your point, is like he's also still probably, other than Jokic, the most natural passer in the entire NBA. So he still has like these unbelievable instincts, and he's taking away the most dangerous part of the court from him. That's why I'm still holding all my Halliburton stock, because I think if he could just take a breath in there, it would open up so much for his game and get so many better looks for himself and his team.
You should work out with
He's gonna figure
Brunson
it
for
out.
a summer.
Yeah, it's honestly, yeah, it's a great take. It is harder as like a fellow short person. It is easier said than
You and
done because
Halliburton, they're like about the same height, right?
no, I was talking to him about it yesterday. I mean, no, but I
I'm not
totally
one to
agree.
talk, but
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a great point, and I think once we get the audio video going, we should pull up some videos of Brunson doing that because he, like you were saying, Alex, like taking his time, working the angles. He always has a bigger, more athletic person on him usually, and just the way he manipulates them into a position where they can't do anything is like basketball brilliance.
Right, and I
counterpoint.
think
The
go
foul
ahead.
baiting is annoying as all hell. So like, let's get off Brunson a little bit. Like it's unwatchable when he seeks out fouls.
Well, the thing is the physicality that we're talking about. Like, I agree, the foul baiting is annoying. The physicality that we're talking about isn't necessarily creating contact as a foul baiting technique. like especially for undersized guys. If you're initiating the contact, you're taking away your defender's athleticism because like if there's a couple
Mhm.
feet of space in between you and the defender, their vertical is as much as they can jump. That didn't make any sense. Their athleticism stays as high as they could go. But if you have a shoulder in your stomach, like that takes away your vertical and your shot blocking ability.
Well,
For
Alex
sure.
does it to me all the time when he's driving and he bumps me right in the chest. Not an offensive foul, and I'm back. He's already up, and I'm like going backwards. It's
No,
it's
you
supposed
can
to do that.
you can say it's an offensive foul.
Not
It's
always.
not. It's
Not
not.
Alex
always.
It's not an
Alex wouldn't
offensive
get
foul.
upset.
It's
Alex
not
wouldn't get
foul.
Question for Alex. That was super interesting. This really demonstrates the difference between somebody who could be a volunteer middle school assistant coach and someone who really couldn't, which is me. So, you know, I have a question. So, do you think that when you score unassisted, that lends itself more to contact? Like if it's a 2-pointer and you're creating your own bucket, does that tend to lead to more contact than if you get an assist from another player? Like someone else is creating that shot for you, or does it just depend?
It for sure depends, but I think I would say it's likely because when you like if you're talking about more of like pick and roll or in isolation, going to the basket, like the entire defense kind of has their eyes on you, so there's probably a second or third guy coming at you versus if you're scoring off of someone else's assist, we're looking at like backdoor cuts, catch and shoot type stuff where not everyone's eyes are on you.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I saw that he, like, compared to last year, is relying on assists way more, like people to give him the ball to score as opposed to him creating his own shot.
Oh, interesting.
Both it from three and from two. Like he's not creating his own shot as much anymore. So I don't know if it's a scheme thing or like you and Brian were saying, like maybe he's just playing a little scared and he's got to relax. He's a little jittery, but I think he'll straighten it out.
And I think, Brian, this goes to your rant next. And yeah, I'm really hammering these transition homes here tonight. But I do think people have changed the way they play defense on him. I think once he started knocking down the threes at the beginning of last year, the initial response was to actually close out hard and show help, right? And now I think it's to close out hard and not show help and make him beat that initial primary defender one on one, right? And I think because, Alex, to your point, when he gets a hip in front, he is just trying to go fast versus slowing up and creating that contact to then have that separation. A lot of his primaries are far more athletic than he is and actually can recover in that one-on-one defense and avoid that rotation, which we don't have a metric to measure. And Brian, I think you have a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, my point is, I guess in general, we talk about basketball. We are five people talking about basketball. We're fans of basketball. I feel like my point's real simple. Like you can play offense and you can play defense, and there's a million and one statistics that the average fan uses to measure offensive output. You can measure their scoring, assists, rebounds. Like rebounds can be both, but it's commonly discussed, easily understood, and like widely disseminated, to use a word out of the dictionary. My issue is that I know like the teams have it. Like you walk into a team, the Bulls analytics department, and they have this, that, and the other thing. But like, why isn't it talked about, or why can't we have an intelligent, like five like actual basketball fans, we can't have an intelligent conversation about who the top 20 defenders are in the NBA because there aren't metrics easily available and widely understood, or just not discussed enough to where like it just doesn't get the love it deserves. And so I think, at the end of the day, is offense more important? Probably a little bit. I'm a big defense guy, so I don't think by a lot. And it's like Trae Young's the perfect example. Like, he is one of the best offensive players in the NBA, has been for several years. Great in the pick and roll, fun to watch. But like, he's an absolute nightmare on defense. And it's like, we all can watch and understand that, see the switches, see the matchups, understand the size and the athleticism, but there needs this is a call to action for the everyday basketball fan, that we need to talk to our congressmen, and we need to talk to our politicians, and we need to be the start of change, and we need to bring these defensive metrics to the forefront of our basketball conversation, because I think they're important. And
Brian, are you saying
that's what I think?
Are you saying we need to make defense great again? Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't say it like that, Jacob. I wouldn't say it like that, but yes.
Do you guys know who leads the league in deflections?
No,
Alex
but
Caruso.
we should. But we should.
Alex Caruso's fourth on the list.
Is it James Harden?
Is it Dyson Daniels?
Dyson
Is it James Harden?
Daniels.
Oh,
Dyson
dang.
Daniels. Wait, crazy. Dyson Daniels is averaging 7.6 deflections per game.
He also averages like 6 steals a game. It's insane.
Next in the league is Nikola Jokic at 4.5. So he averages 3 more deflections per game. Everybody else after that is 4.5, 4, 3.9, 3.7, etc. All the way down.
But to your point, Jacob, like, no one knows that. Like, obviously the people who do it for a living know it, but like, we don't know it. Like relatively involved basketball fans, and like, that's a problem. Like, that's a huge value add to a team. Like, stopping a point is almost as valuable or just as valuable as scoring a point. And I don't want to get into that discussion, but like, we should know that. Like, that should be like a household, like, oh, Dyson Daniels like leads the league in deflections. Like that, like, you know, like that's what we need to do, and we need to call our local politicians about it.
What do you guys think about? So I am undecided. I'm leaning towards I don't like the plus minus for a player because there's so many factors, you know, that goes into plus minus that not necessarily is that individual's fault. But if they could do like a plus minus in ISO situations, to be like, if some guy is playing ISO defense, what's his plus minus on those specific plays? Maybe it's hard to be like, I wouldn't want to be the statistician that does that, but I'd like to know.
See, I'm going to piggyback off of that for 1 second, then I'll stop talking. Because you reminded me of something I was going to bring up. Like, we were talking about the clutch points last week. Like, we know, like, they're like DeMar DeRozan and De'Aaron Fox are really good in the clutch. Obviously, a lot of other guys that's talked about. Why aren't we talking about the flip? Like, why aren't we talking about guys who defend in the clutch and are allowing like a really low like field goal percentage? Like, that's almost as important. I'll get off my box now.
Yeah, no, I think there's some kind of companies out there that are working on the player tracking data, and we'll shout them out in the show notes, of course. But to your point, right, I don't think it's readily accessible for us. And Brian, you've kind of inspired me. I'm doing some perusing on NBA.com. Like, they do have like defensive box out metrics, and Bam Adebayo's leading the league at 3.1 defensive box outs, 1-on-1 versus him and his man per game.
Oh, you're literally talking about box outs. Okay.
Yeah, where he wins the box out, right? Like, it's like a win on the boards. The next highest is Alperen Sengun at 1.9. So, like, I do think somebody like Bam, who's generally spoken of as a kind of anchor of a defense, right? Like, I think we could find ways to come up with the stats to quantify our arguments, right? But I think that if it was a much better discourse on stats that actually represent, Michael, to your exact point, specific actions, I think it would make us all smarter as basketball fans.
Yeah, I mean, Jacob's right. Like, Second Spectrum has literally all of this and more than you could ever want, with like player tracking, individual matchups, all kinds of stuff. But to the larger issue, and you've all mentioned, is it's just not accessible to people. Like, when you are going to bed at night or you're on the shitter and you're checking the box scores, you're seeing like, oh, Trae Young had 34 points, 11 assists. Like, what an amazing game. You don't even notice they lost by 12. So, like, there's a reason that these things belong on the forefront of our understanding of the game.
Does PER incorporate every aspect of the game? Like your PER is technically, this is how good I am, is overall impact in the game? Is that what
Yeah.
that represents? They should maybe have one that's an offensive and a defensive then. So you could make all those crazy statistics, quantify it to like a number somehow, and then for offense and defense.
Yeah.
Like offensive and defensive net rating.
Yeah. Just a thought.
Per is field goals made, steals, 3-point field goals, free throws, blocks, and offensive rebounds is the
But
same.
they miss so many of the other little things that we know as fans and actual basketball players that you got. Like I think a lot of the guys in the NBA know I don't want to go against that guy. I want to switch to that matchup that I'm going to kill this other guy. It's a game of matchups, and they know it.
Yeah, and Don Quixote, he was on a mission to civilize. I think us at Below the Rim, we're on a mission to educate about defense. That's going to be our objective. Take the information not available to those that don't pay for it behind a paywall at Second Spectrum Sports and tracking player data and disseminate it to the masses. Sound good?
Yeah, let's
USA,
disseminate it. Yeah.
USA, USA.
All right, let's wrap it up by another not so short segment, and let's have a little bit of fun. So for today, I'm gonna take on the role of Adam Silver. It's kind of a lifelong dream of mine. I know we look similar, same height, same hairstyle, and we'll just go for it. Your guys' objective is convince the shit out of me that your change for the NBA, be it small, medium, large, extra large, is in my best interest in the commissioner, and I can take it to the owners, and we can make this happen. So we're gonna just go a lot around the circle, and have everybody kind of speak to their change, and we'll pick one that I'll make a call to the commish afterwards, and we'll pitch as a group. So we'll go from there. And I forgot who I wrote down to start first. Who wants to go first?
So, my change, I've had many changes. First of all, I said it earlier, there's too many threes. Just in the league right now, it's not as fun to watch as it used to be in the 90s. So, I remember watching multiple games like the Mavericks Celtics where they're literally shooting 6 threes in 6 possessions. And I'm like, we didn't even cross the threshold to get to the lane. This is insane. So, a couple little changes. Some are insane. Some are, I think are pretty cool. The first one is obvious. Move the 3-point line back to a place where it is the best shooters are shooting 35%. And I checked Basketball Reference, and Omri Caspi is the 250th best 3-point shooter in history at 0.3682%. I don't like that. I think that it's way too high of a percentage. And 250 guys are shooting better than that. That's not fun for me as a guy who likes to see guys go to the lane, make beautiful passes, backdoor cuts, all the fun things about basketball. That's my one. 2. I think that it's really hard talking about defense. I think they have taken away a lot of the advantages, or they've given too much advantage to the offensive player. I think we should allow defenders the ability to hand check beyond the 3-point line. So it's harder. That's what I know that Jacob, your face was what I thought of when I came up with that one. These next ones are weird, but bear with me. After a certain numbers of 3 per quarter, whatever you want it to be, maybe you want 24 threes in a game. So after 6 made threes in a quarter, if you shoot another 3 and you make it, it's only 2 points. So you have to pick how many threes you want to do. Just a thought if we want to max it out. Couple more. Instead of just discouraging threes, we need to encourage going to the lane. So with that said, if you make an and one layup, you still get 2 free throws. So you make a layup, you get fouled, you could get a 4-point play. And then it goes back to the physicality. Let's get these guys hitting each other. I want to go to the lane. I want to see some action.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, yeah. I love this one, too. I think you guys are going to like this one. An alley-oop is worth 3 points. I like that. I like that a lot.
That takes
This
me,
I
that
one,
didn't
takes
say
me back
double
to
technical
semi-pro.
foul.
I know, it's ridiculous. An alley, that's a foul. Um, this one, this is my crazy one. I'm not convinced, but I'll throw it out to the guys, see what you think. After a certain number of 3-point attempts per game, say 30, because this is weird. The defensive team, so at the 31st 3-point attempt, the defense is allowed to goaltend. That only threes. Not convinced. Thought it was kind of cool.
What's this?
So those,
What's this new sport called?
I know.
Slam
That's what I
ball.
mean. But some of them are pretty solid.
Listen, as the commissioner, I don't know if I'll be able to back all of those, but there are pieces of those that are, the one that does stick out. I do think the making an and one a possibility for a 4-point play is very interesting. There's some meat on that bone there to maybe pull off a little bit more.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hey, I
Also
love
like
the
the handshake.
I
like the
love the
handshake.
I love the creativity too. You got in your bag.
Yeah.
You cooked up something. It smells a little bit
Oh.
funky, but there's something there. There's a dish in front of us.
Thank you.
I like the cap on threes per quarter. That's creative. It reminds me of like the old men like 12-inch softball leagues where there's like a cap on how many home runs you could hit. I'm into it.
Oh, yes, that is. I just learned that was a thing actually when I pitched this elsewhere. So that's really funny.
Alex, what's your pitch? Hit us.
Okay, so I have a two-parter. The first thing is just a stat that I want to add. I think that if you pass to a guy who gets fouled, he doesn't make the shot, goes to the free throw line, and makes the free throws, even if he makes one free throw, I think that should count as an assist.
Yes.
What
you're
what if it's I'm in the bonus and you foul me in the backcourt and somebody just passed me the ball on the inbounds?
No assist.
So it has to be a shooting foul.
Correct. Field goal attempt, and you get fouled.
How many assists
And
do
then
I get if I make 3 free throws? Just one still?
It's one assist as no matter how many points the free throws lead to. 1, 2, or 3.
So even if they miss both, it's still an assist.
No. If they miss both, no assist. If points get scored because of your pass where the person got fouled, assist.
Because you don't get more of an assist if you pass to a 3 versus a 2, just like you wouldn't get more of an assist if you made 1 versus 2. It's a score. I agree, Alex.
Good point. Okay, and then my second idea, I want to eliminate the tip-off. I think it's the beginning of a game. It needs to be quite a bit more exciting, and I think it holds zero significance. And I see Jokic make a joke out of the tip-off quite a bit. He just like completely disregards it because if you win the tip-off, no matter what, the other team's going to get it for the second and third quarter, and then the team who won the tip-off gets it in the fourth quarter. I think there's a lot of room for opportunity when the game starts and everyone's gathered around the middle for us to create an exciting idea for how it's determined who gets ball. And it could be at the beginning of each quarter. First thought that came to my mind, and it's a half-baked idea, but we're always talking about three-pointers, and I think the All-Star game has become all about the three-point contest. So, like, if at the beginning of the game, kind of like in soccer, how you have a shootout, you roll out some three-point racks, and everyone in your starting lineup has a rack of 5, and you do a quick three-point shooting competition against the other team. Winner gets ball.
I really like that idea.
Really?
What about what about one-on-one half-court knockout
Beautiful.
for the ball? Like nothing better than just athletes sprinting back and forth and dunking and knockout. It would be riveting to see how that played out.
Well, and I think you can have different competitions for ball at the beginning of each quarter. Like knockout could be second and third quarter. 3-point competition, first and fourth. I don't know. What were you going to say, Brian?
No, I'm just deep in thought. Like, I don't know how you'd start the game, but I really like the idea of making it more exciting because now that I'm thinking about it, half the time one person like literally doesn't jump and it's not exciting.
And if Biggie Bagel wins, and the team has to bet on them,
And if
then they get
if
the
he's
ball in the
schmearing
third
everywhere,
quarter.
then
Yes.
Everyone's slipping on
Yes.
the
it's a
court.
mess. It's a fucking mess.
Oh, that's an interesting concept, Alex.
Ian, you were going to say something?
I was going to chime in earlier and make a comment that I didn't like that Michael said he pitched this elsewhere.
I'll be honest.
Good catch.
I pitched it to my dad, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, they cap home runs," and I'm like, "Didn't know that."
Yeah, well, it's the 16-inch Chicago softball rule of home runs.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
We wouldn't
Yes.
know because we never hit home runs when we play 16-inch, but there are people out there that's a problem for.
We've heard that's an issue. Yeah.
It's the rumor. All right, Brian, hit us with your pitch.
Yeah, I mean, this one's like steaming hot, like just steaming freaking hot. Like, take your clothes off, give yourself a second. No, it's an obvious one. I think we need to add one-on-one to the All-Star game. Like, if you think about like All-Star weekend, you want to see the best athletes in the world doing what they do best, but the key is you want them to give a shit. And just like with any all-star event, of course, most people won't want to do it, but all you need is like six guys who will do one-on-one. I'm talking six guys, 3 rounds, or 8 guys, if my math is correct. 3 rounds, one-on-one, twos and threes, up to like 9 or 11, and you just see the best athletes in the world getting after it. I don't think it's possible to like half-ass a one-on-one because you're gonna get embarrassed by someone. So like Alex was just saying, like the 3-point contest is now kind of leapfrog the dunk contest, which is like sad to say, but probably true in most years. And the NBA is like desperately searching for something. I'm like, the answer is right in front of you. Like, who wouldn't watch that? Like, who wouldn't watch that? Like, if you're a basketball fan, you absolutely watch that and get excited about it. Like, I mean,
All right. Here's the thing. I can hear Mac McClung starting to practice his one-on-one game because what NBA star is going to do that on national television?
No, I think that's the point, though. I think it's the guys that are guys like Mac McClung, guys that like, if I get hurt, I'm not playing anyway, and I can get a name for myself in this. And Mac McClung did that in the dunk contest. To your point,
Yeah.
I think it actually helps guys that aren't well known become well known.
I think the key is how you incentivize guys. Like that's the most difficult part, but like you only need a couple who want to do it to like really just make it fireworks. And I do think that even if it's just middle of the road players, like it would still be really exciting. And what I'm banking on, Kamish, is once this gains traction with like the lower level, mid level guys, like once it becomes like the most popular event, which it will, then it'll become a prestigious award, and then you will have a couple of high ranking guys. So this is a long term play, and I'll take 10% of the proceeds, and we'll call it a deal.
I actually have a counter to Brian's point. I think in a perfect world, what you described would be amazing. I'm all for it. I think it's unlikely that guys are going to want to compete, and I actually would rather see the NBA lean into how much their talent doesn't want to try in an all-star game and instead take the in-season tournament, shift it backwards. What is the all-star game happens in like late January, maybe early February, right?
February, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So if the the Vegas weekend where it's semifinals and then a day of rest and then the finals, like if you make that the Friday, Sunday of the All-Star game, and then Saturday is how it currently exists with the 3-point competition, dunk contest, and skills, and then you just make that like the big NBA halfway through the season celebration.
You stole my own pitch to myself. I want to move it back to the first week of March after the Super Bowl and make the winner of the in-season tournament automatically qualify for the 10th seed in the play-in game. So if you're above that, no impact to your seeding, right? You're still the 4th, 3rd, etc. But if you win the play-in tournament and you weren't going to make the playoffs, you auto get into the 10 seed. And it gives everybody that incentive to play. And I was going to put All-Star Weekend around it. Me and you are on the same page there, Alex. I think that would be
I like that.
awesome.
I like that idea. I'd be cool with them going higher. Like you lock in the 8th, the 7th or 8th.
Or wait, no. Well,
Yeah, maybe
for the first play-in.
Yeah, maybe 7 or 8. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Do they still get their $500,000 though? Every single player.
We're still paying, but I don't qualify to pitch for myself. But I love that idea. All right, Ian, take us home. Mercifully.
Well, I have a request for the commissioner, which is to send a message to the rest of the NBA owners that we all agree we have a good thing going. I think the league's in a great place. I think everybody's having fun. I think we're making a lot of money. And so for that reason, I want to have your word on a commitment for no talk of league expansion for at least the next 10 years.
Wow.
So the decision to expand is purely economic. It's like, do the owners want a huge cash prize up front? Let's say you add 2 teams. Each owner is probably getting like $600 million at like the rate that NBA franchises are going right now. But what you have to remind them, Jacob, is that the revenue sharing gets diluted even more. And along with that, the product gets diluted too. Like right now, we have guys like Jason Tatum, guys like Joel Embiid, guys like Luka Doncic making max money as they deserve to. You expand to 32 teams, next thing you know, guys like Zach LaVine are getting max contracts. And we can't have that. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
What a world. What a world. What a world.
Exactly. But the rest of the Zach LaVines of the world are going to also be getting max contracts and be like the franchise cornerstone on the, Des Moines Stupids. And so we just can't have that. And it's been 20 years since the last expansion team, the Bobcats. Anyone know trivia how many championships they've won in the last 20 years?
It's looking like 0, Bob.
Yeah, 0. They're also
I was
25th in
too.
revenue. 10 years before that, we added Toronto and Memphis. That's 1 combined championship, and Memphis is 28th in revenue, even worse than Charlotte every year. And so there's just like not a huge of economic viability, and I really worry about diluting the product. And so we care about the fans. We are fans. And so I have a few minor proposals to allow the fans in these cities that aren't fortunate enough to have NBA teams. One, we could do like what the San Antonio Spurs do with Austin, which is have a little bit of sister city relationship. The Timberwolves have a G League team in Des Moines. They could play some games there. The Pelicans in Birmingham. The Celtics can play all over New England. Find a way for, incentivize that, maybe some revenue sharing, incremental differences. And then lastly, Vegas and Seattle. Obviously, those are the 2 places that have been talked about the most for expansion. Give them alternating years of like the NBA Cup, the finals, or the NBA Cup finals, the draft. Allow for like non-NBA cities to try to bid for All-Star Weekend. I think that could be kind of cool. Like find ways to get NBA everywhere, all over the country, but don't do it with an additional franchise. I just don't think we're ready for it.
Ian, to your point about, I don't care about Vegas. I care about Seattle. The Supersonics were like pivotal. I think their marketing was amazing. Seattle deserves a team. Rather than expand, maybe they could, and I don't want to say a team, but they could replace a team because
all about it.
They deserve a team, and that the Supersonics. Oh my God, what a franchise that we lost! It was a cornerstone of America.
If the Bulls move there, can we watch the games because they'll be out of network?
I'm fine with that.
Might be worth it. Yeah.
So the commissioner has 2 just like really quick thoughts and responses to your proposal, Ian. First is, we've done really good in terms of like really powerful sports fandom cities with Memphis and Charlotte and Oklahoma City over the past 3 years. It's been kind of cornerstones of American sports, very comparable to Seattle and Las Vegas. So I think that we made some miscalculations there. The other hard part is I'm going to have somebody pay me $7 billion and build a brand new stadium in Las Vegas where I can run all of my NBA events. So that one's kind of hard for me to say no to. And I think we're going to, even though we might want to say no, we're going to have to reject your proposal for the $7 billion.
Well, next thing you know, we're the NFL. Congrats, Roger Goodell. Enjoy your 7th private jet.
Listen, sometimes we need that extra couple of billions to sleep well at night. But, I want to commend all of you for very persuasive and well thought out proposals. The league's in great hands with you guys kind of being the voice and logic of where we're going next. And, I think everybody feels that way. But, the winner of today and what we're going to look to implement for the 30-31-32 season is Mr. Alex Rasky. And we're getting rid of the tip-off. I love the idea of let's get specialists, right? Let's get the knockout specialists, the 3-point, the 3-point bomb specialist out there to win the tip. And let's make that guy a roster spot. Let's get him to the a minimum contract. Let's have some fun with this.
Yeah, Alex exactly.
Exactly.
Okay, well, now, I don't want to win anymore. I'm out on the kicker.
Wait, but hold on,
it's
Alex.
Too late. It's being implemented. The tip
could make
gone.
It to the NBA.
It's over.
We could make it. We could make it to the NBA.
This is our shot.
There you go.
This is our shot.
We just need to define the thing that allows us to get
shots.
it. There you go.
Specialize in half-court shots. You live, breathe, and poop and pee half-court shots, and then you can be in the NBA.
Wow.
So between now and next week, we know what Alex and Brian are going to be doing. Expect to see some video evidence of those half-court shots getting up. But to Alex, Ian, Michael, Brian, I'm Jacob. We thank you all for the time again, and hope you enjoyed this week's rendition of the Below the Rim podcast. We'll talk to you all next week. Have a good one.
Woo.